Everyone flew abroad for my sister's wedding, except me. They forgot to buy my plane ticket. No hotel, no itinerary, nothing. Everything's booked now, they said, as if it were just a minor mistake. I didn't push back. Just said, okay. Then I went no contact. No texts, no calls, total silence for a year. And when they finally got in touch, they had no clue what was coming. Imagine pouring your entire being into your family, always there, always the dependable one, only to discover they literally forgot to invite you to your own sister's wedding. Not just an oversight, but a complete erasure from the plans. Can you even fathom that kind of gut punch? That's when my whole world just shattered. It made me look in the mirror and ask, if I'm so easy to forget, who the hell am I even trying to be? It was a Tuesday afternoon, sitting in my Denver apartment. My coffee, once steaming, had long gone cold in my hands. I was knee-deep in my usual meticulous reports as a supply chain analyst for a pharma company. My life was predictable. Stable. Forgettable, apparently. Then my phone rang. It was my mom, Eleanor. "Alice, honey," she started, that specific, saccharine tone already signaling trouble, the one she used when bad news was disguised as not so bad. "We need to talk about Chloe's wedding." I slowly put down my pen. "What about it, Mom?" "I already requested time off. It's in 3 weeks, right?" Then came the pause. Oh, that agonizing, drawn-out silence that made my stomach clench tighter than a fist, even before the words hit me. "Well, that's the thing," she finally uttered, her voice a little too bright. "Your father and I were handling all the travel arrangements, and somehow, we just completely forgot to book your plane ticket and your hotel room. We only realized it yesterday when we were confirming everything. And now all the flights are completely booked. The hotel, too. Peak season in Maui, apparently." I stared at the wall of my office. There was a photo pinned there, from last Christmas. All of us together, smiling. Chloe had her arm around me. We were sisters. We were supposed to be close. "You forgot," I repeated, my voice flat, hollow. The words felt foreign coming out of my mouth. "These things happen, sweetheart." Mom chirped, a little too loudly. "We've been so busy with the planning, and there were so many details. Chloe's devastated, of course, but she understands. We'll take lots of photos for you." I just sat there, the weight of 27 years pressing down on me. Always the forgettable one. The middle child, never quite measuring up to Chloe, the golden daughter, the successful architect. Or my younger brother, Ben, the charming entrepreneur everyone adored. I was just Alice. Reliable. Quiet. So damn easy to overlook. "That happens," I said again, the emotion completely drained from my voice. "Oh, I'm so glad you understand," Mom exclaimed, a wave of palpable relief washing through her tone. "Your sister was worried you'd be upset. You know how sensitive she gets before big events. I'll send you photos. I promise." After she hung up, I sat there for a full hour. Staring. Then, I opened my laptop. I wasn't researching flights to Hawaii. I was researching something else entirely. The next day, I walked into my supervisor Sarah's office. She looked genuinely surprised when I told her I wanted to take a leave of absence. "A year?" she asked, her eyebrows shooting up. "That's quite unusual. Is everything all right, Alice?" "Everything is fine," I said, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil inside. "I have some personal projects I want to pursue. I've been here 6 years, and I think I need a break to figure out my next steps." Sarah studied me for a moment. I'd always been her most reliable analyst, the one who stayed late, never complained, fixed problems quietly, without drama. You have plenty of vacation time saved up, she said finally. And honestly, Alice, you deserve it. You've been carrying this department for years. If you need a sabbatical, take it. Your position will be here when you get back. I thanked her, walked out, and felt lighter than I had in months. That evening, I drafted a message to the family group chat. No one answered calls anymore anyway. Hey everyone, I typed. Not going to make the wedding, but I hope it's beautiful. Taking some time for myself. Going to be offline for a while. Love you all. Chloe responded immediately, wait, what? Where are you going? I didn't answer. Instead, I turned off my phone. Over the next week, I sold most of my furniture, put my car in storage, and rented out my apartment to a colleague. I kept only what fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. My family tried calling, but I let everything go to voicemail. Chloe left increasingly frantic messages. Alice, this is weird. Where are you going? Are you okay? Please call me back. Ben texted, dude, what is going on? Mom is freaking out. I didn't respond to any of them. The day before Chloe's wedding, I boarded a plane. Not to Hawaii. To Tokyo. I'd always wanted to see Japan, and I'd been saving money for years. What I hadn't told anyone was exactly how much I'd saved. Living frugally and investing carefully had given me enough to fund an extended journey, especially if I was smart about it. As the plane took off, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Pure, exhilarating freedom. I spent 3 weeks in Japan, staying in hostels and budget hotels, eating street food, visiting temples, practicing my terrible Japanese with patient locals. I took a calligraphy class in Kyoto and learned to make soba noodles from an elderly woman in Osaka who reminded me of my grandmother. My grandmother. The one who had actually remembered my birthday every year. The one who had left me a small inheritance when she passed. No one in my family knew about that money. Grandma had set up the trust privately with instructions that it be given to me on my 25th birthday. She'd even written me a letter that came with it. Alice, you have always been the one who thinks before acting, who plans quietly while others make noise. Use this wisely. Make yourself proud. I had invested most of it, watching it grow. Now, I was using it exactly as Grandma had intended. From Tokyo, I went to Seoul, then Bangkok. I sent no photos, no updates, nothing. I existed in a bubble of anonymity, just another traveler with a backpack and a journal. In Chiang Mai, I took a 6-week course in digital marketing. I'd always been good with data and analysis, and I discovered I had a real talent for understanding online business strategies. Meanwhile, according to the sparse information I gathered from my turned-off phone, which I checked once every 2 weeks at internet cafes, my family was losing their minds. Chloe's wedding had happened. Based on the single time I logged into social media from a borrowed tablet, it looked beautiful. White sand, sunset ceremony, elegant reception. She wore a stunning dress. Everyone looked happy in the photos. No one seemed to miss me at all. But my inbox told a different story. 47 emails from my mother. 32 from Chloe. 20-something from Ben. Even my father, Richard, who never used email, had sent 3. Subject lines ranged from, "Where are you?" to, "Please call us," to, "This is not funny anymore," to, "We are worried sick." I read none of them. Not yet. In Vietnam, I met a woman named Maria who ran a small export business, connecting Vietnamese artisans with international buyers. She was from Australia, had been traveling for 15 years, and had built her entire company from a laptop and a lot of determination. The thing about disappearing, she told me over coffee in Hanoi, is that you find out who you actually are when nobody is watching. What did you find out? I asked. She grinned. That I'm much more interesting than my family ever gave me credit for. We became friends. She taught me the basics of international trade, supply chain management across borders, and how to identify quality products. My background in pharmaceutical distribution translated surprisingly well. We started collaborating on a small project, helping a collective of ceramic artists in Hue reach European markets. It was supposed to be just a learning experience. It turned into something more. By month 4 of my absence, I had helped facilitate 3 successful shipments and earned my first independent commission. It wasn't much, barely enough to cover a week of expenses. But it was mine. Money I had earned through my own initiative. Not by showing up dutifully to a job where I was appreciated but never celebrated. Maria looked at the numbers and whistled. You have a gift for this. Ever think about doing it full-time? Maybe, I said. I moved through Southeast Asia like a ghost, Cambodia, Laos, back to Thailand. I learned to haggle in markets, to spot quality craftsmanship, to understand the delicate balance of cross-cultural business relationships. I took online courses in international trade law and logistics. I worked with other digital nomads and small business owners. And slowly, carefully, I built something. By month 6, I was running my own small consulting operation, helping artisans and small manufacturers connect with international distributors. I used my pharmaceutical supply chain background to optimize shipping routes and negotiate better rates. I was good at it. Really good. The money started flowing more steadily, not a fortune, but enough to sustain my travels and start saving again. More importantly, I was learning and growing in ways I never had back home, where I was always just reliable Alice, the one who never caused problems or made waves. I kept my phone off, except for those brief bi-weekly check-ins. The messages from my family had evolved. Anger had shifted to concern, then to guilt. Mom, sweetheart, we know we hurt you. Please just let us know you're alive. Chloe, I'm so sorry about the wedding. I should have checked the arrangements myself. Please, Alice, talk to me. Ben, everyone is really worried. Dad hasn't been sleeping. Just send a sign that you're okay. On month 7, I was in Bali when I checked my messages and found something that made me pause. An email from my father, Richard, who had somehow figured out how to attach a video. I almost didn't watch it, but curiosity won. The video showed my father in his study, looking older than I remembered. Tired. Alice, he said, staring into the camera awkwardly. I don't know if you'll see this, but I need to say it anyway. What we did was wrong. Your mother and I, we got so caught up in making Chloe's day perfect that we forgot about you. That's not an excuse. You are our daughter and we failed you. Please come home, or at least let us know you're safe. I love you. I watched it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and went for a walk on the beach. The thing was, I wasn't angry anymore. Somewhere between Tokyo and Bali, between learning calligraphy and negotiating shipping contracts, the rage had burned itself out. What remained was something clearer. The understanding that I had been complicit in my own invisibility. I had been so busy being reliable, being easy, being the one who never caused problems, that I had let them forget I was there. But I wasn't ready to go back. Not yet. By month 8, I had landed in Barcelona. My consulting business was growing. I had a steady roster of clients, mostly small manufacturers in Asia, who needed help reaching European and American markets. I had learned to speak passable Spanish, decent Thai, and serviceable Vietnamese. I had built a life that belonged entirely to me. And then I received a message that changed everything. It came through LinkedIn, of all places, from someone named Isabella, who identified herself as a senior buyer for a mid-sized pharmaceutical distribution company in Chicago. Alice, I hope this message finds you well. I was given your name by a mutual contact who said you have been doing impressive work in international supply chain consultation. We have been struggling with our Asian suppliers, particularly in Vietnam and Thailand. Quality control has been inconsistent, and shipping costs are higher than they should be. Would you be interested in discussing a consulting contract? Your background at your previous company suggests you would be perfect for this project. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I looked at Isabella's profile. The company was called Apex Pharmaceutical Distribution. It was a competitor to my old employer, but smaller, more nimble. According to their website, they were expanding aggressively. I wrote back, would be interested in learning more. I am currently based in Europe, but available for video consultations. What timeline are you working with? Her response came within an hour. How does tomorrow work? 2 p.m. Central Time. The video call happened in a co-working space in Barcelona. Isabella appeared on my screen, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. Let me be direct, she said after brief introductions. We are bleeding money on our Asian supply chain, delayed shipments, quality issues, and we're paying too much for freight. I've heard you managed to cut shipping costs by 30% for 3 different clients in the last 6 months, while improving delivery times. How? I walked her through my methodology: relationship building with reliable local suppliers, understanding regional logistics networks, negotiating as a partner rather than just a buyer, quality control systems that respected local manufacturing practices while meeting international standards. She listened intently, occasionally asking sharp questions that proved she knew the industry well. I'll be honest with you, Alice, she said when I finished. I've been in this business for 28 years. Most consultants talk a good game but can't deliver. You sound like you actually know what you're doing. I want to offer you a 6-month contract. Remote work, but you would need to travel to our supplier sites periodically. The pay is substantial. She named a figure that made my heart skip. It was more than I'd made in a year at my old job. I need to think about it, I said, keeping my voice steady. Of course, she replied. But I need an answer by Friday. We're losing ground to competitors, and I need someone who can move fast. After the call ended, I sat in that co-working space for 2 hours. This was a real opportunity, not just a collection of small consulting gigs, but a legitimate contract with a growing company. It would mean structure, stability, and validation of everything I had built over the past 8 months. It would also mean emerging from my self-imposed exile. I thought about my family, about the messages I had been ignoring, about the fact that I had been gone for 8 months and they still had no idea where I was or what I was doing. Part of me wanted to stay hidden forever, to keep building this new life where no one knew me as the forgettable middle child. But another part, the part that had grown stronger with each country visited and each deal closed, knew that real growth meant eventually facing what I had left behind. Not because I owed them anything, but because I owed myself the satisfaction of showing them exactly who I had become. I sent Isabella an email, I accept your offer. When do we start? Her response was immediate, Monday. Welcome to Apex. Over the weekend, I began the process of returning to the visible world. I turned my phone on fully for the first time in months. The cascade of notifications was overwhelming: missed calls, voicemails, texts, emails. I ignored all of them for now. Instead, I updated my LinkedIn profile with my new title, International Supply Chain Consultant, Apex Pharmaceutical Distribution. I added details about my consulting work over the past months, carefully professional, but clearly successful. Then I posted a single update, excited to announce I am joining Apex Pharmaceutical Distribution as a consultant, helping optimize international supply chains. Looking forward to this next chapter. I knew it would detonate like a bomb in my family's world. They had no idea where I had been or what I had been doing. Now they would see that not only was I fine, I was thriving. My phone started ringing within 10 minutes. Chloe. I let it ring. Then Mom. Then Ben. I ignored them all. Instead, I spent the evening preparing for my new role. Isabella had sent over files detailing Apex's current supply chain challenges. As I reviewed them, I realized something that made me smile. One of their biggest competitors, the company eating their lunch in the Asian markets, was my old employer. The pharmaceutical distribution company where I had worked for 6 years, where I had been reliable, quiet, easily overlooked Alice. And now I was being hired specifically to help Apex beat them. The irony was delicious. On Sunday evening, I finally opened the messages from my family. Months of worry, guilt, anger, confusion, and eventual desperate pleading. I read every single one, feeling nothing but a distant sort of pity. Then I composed a single message to the family group chat. Hi everyone, I'm fine. I've been traveling and working. Sorry for the silence. I'll be in touch soon. Simple. Unapologetic. Offering no explanations. Chloe tried calling immediately. I declined the call and sent a text, not ready to talk yet, but I'm okay. The next morning, I started my new job. Isabella set up meetings with Apex's executive team. I presented my initial assessment of their supply chain problems and my proposed solutions. They listened with the kind of attention I had never received at my old job. The CEO, a sharp businessman named David, nodded throughout my presentation. This is exactly what we needed. Welcome aboard, Alice. I think you're going to help us change the game. I smiled. That's the plan. My first major project for Apex took me back to Vietnam, where I had connections with manufacturers that my old company had repeatedly failed to cultivate properly. I flew from Barcelona to Ho Chi Minh City with a clear mandate: establish reliable partnerships with 3 key suppliers and negotiate contracts that would give Apex a significant advantage. The trip was a success beyond even Isabella's expectations. Using the relationships I had built during my travels, I secured exclusive agreements with 2 suppliers who had previously worked with my former employer but had grown frustrated with their rigid, impersonal approach. The third supplier was a new contact, a family-run operation producing high-quality pharmaceutical packaging that exceeded U.S. standards while costing 40% less than current alternatives. When I returned to Barcelona and presented the contracts in a video conference, David actually stood up and applauded. Alice, in 3 weeks, you have accomplished what our previous consultant could not do in 6 months. These contracts alone will save us close to $2 million annually while improving quality. Outstanding work. Isabella smiled, something I had learned she didn't do often. I knew you were the right choice. The executive team wanted to discuss expanding my role. Are you available for a call tomorrow? That night, I finally called my family. Not because I felt obligated, but because I was ready. My mother answered on the first ring. Alice. Oh my God, Alice, is that really you? Hi, Mom. Where are you? What have you been doing? We've been so worried. I'm in Barcelona, I said calmly. I've been traveling and working. I'm a consultant now. International Supply Chain Management. There was a stunned silence. You've been in Europe for how long? Asia before that? About 9 months total. 9 months? Her voice climbed an octave. You've been gone for 9 months. And you didn't think to tell us where you were. You didn't think to tell me I wasn't invited to Chloe's wedding until 3 weeks before. I said pleasantly. I figured we were even. Another silence. This one longer, more uncomfortable. Alice, that's not fair. We apologize for that. It was a terrible mistake. It was not a mistake, Mom. Mistakes are accidental. You had a list of people to book flights and hotels for, and my name was not on it. That was a choice. Your sister has been devastated. Has she? I asked. Because when I looked at the wedding photos, everyone seemed pretty happy. No one looked like they were missing anything. We need to talk about this as a family, Mom said, her voice taking on that familiar tone of maternal authority. When are you coming home? I'm not sure yet. My work is here right now. What work? You had a perfectly good job in Denver. I quit that job. I have a new one now, a better one. I could practically hear her struggling to process this. Her reliable, predictable daughter had vanished for 9 months and returned as someone unrecognizable. I want to talk to you about this properly, she said finally. Face to face. Can you at least video call so we can see you? Maybe later this week. I have to go, Mom. Work calls. Alice, wait. I hung up. It felt surprisingly good. The next call was worse. Chloe tried the guilt approach immediately. Alice, I can't believe you just disappeared like that. Do you have any idea what that did to me on my wedding day, knowing my sister was out there somewhere, angry at me? Did it ruin your day? I asked. What? No, but, then I guess everything worked out fine. That's cruel, Alice. That's not like you. Maybe you don't know what I'm like, I said. Maybe nobody does. We grew up together. I'm your sister. Sisters remember to invite each other to their weddings. Chloe was crying now. It wasn't my fault. Mom and Dad were handling the travel. I trusted them to take care of it. You trusted them to take care of everything, except checking if your sister was actually invited. That says something, Chloe. I'm sorry. How many times do I have to say it? I'm not angry anymore, I said honestly. I'm just done being invisible. You were never invisible to me. I was. I'm the boring one, remember? The one without the architecture career or the perfect wedding or the interesting life. Just reliable old Alice who you could forget about because she would always be there anyway. That's not true. Then tell me, Chloe, when was the last time you asked me about my life? About what I wanted, what I was doing, what mattered to me. The silence stretched out. She couldn't answer. Because she couldn't remember. Because it had never happened. I have to go, I said. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope you're very happy. I hung up before she could respond. Ben tried a different approach, anger. What the hell, Alice? You just vanished for 9 months. Do you know how crazy that made everyone? Dad thought you might be dead. I sent a message saying I was fine. 1 message in 9 months. That's insane. Is it? Or is it about as much attention as I usually get from this family? Oh, come on. You're not going to play the victim card here. You're the one who ghosted everyone after being ghosted first, I pointed out. Seems fair. You're being childish. Maybe. Or maybe I'm finally standing up for myself. Did you ever think of that? Standing up for yourself by running away to Europe. Barcelona specifically. And I didn't run away. I left. There's a difference. Whatever. When are you coming back? I don't know. Why does everyone keep asking me that? Because you live here. You have a family here. I have a job in Barcelona and clients in Asia. This is where my life is now. Ben made an exasperated sound. You can't just decide to live in Spain, Alice. That's not how life works. Actually, it is exactly how life works. When you're an adult with money and skills, you go where you want. You do what you want. You stop waiting for permission from people who barely notice you exist. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Let me ask you something, Ben. When was my birthday? Silence. You don't know, do you? Of course, I know. What day, Ben? More silence. It was 3 months ago. Not one of you remembered. Not Mom, not Dad, not Chloe, and definitely not you. I turned 28 years old in Bangkok, completely alone. And my family didn't even notice. So forgive me if I'm not rushing back to Denver for a reunion. After those calls, I muted the family group chat and focused on my work. Isabella had been serious about expanding my role. Within 2 weeks, I was officially promoted to senior consultant with a significant raise and equity options in Apex. My territory now included not just Southeast Asia, but also Eastern Europe, where Apex wanted to establish new supplier relationships. I moved from Barcelona to Prague, a city I had never visited but immediately fell in love with. The architecture, the history, the culture. It felt like a place where I could finally put down temporary roots while maintaining the flexibility my work required. My consulting work was thriving. I had developed a reputation in the industry as someone who could navigate complex international partnerships and solve supply chain problems that others found impossible. Offers started coming in from other companies. But I stayed loyal to Apex. They had taken a chance on me when I was still building my credibility, and Isabella had become something of a mentor. Meanwhile, my family's messages had evolved from guilt-tripping to attempted manipulation. Mom sent long emails about how Dad's health was suffering from the stress of my absence. Chloe forwarded articles about the importance of family forgiveness. Ben tried the buddy approach, sending memes and jokes as if nothing had happened, slowly trying to normalize communication. I responded occasionally, brief messages confirming I was alive and well, nothing more. Then, 6 weeks into my Prague residency, I got a call from Isabella that changed everything. "Alice, we need to talk about something sensitive," she said. "I'm sending you an encrypted file. Look at it and call me back." The file contained internal documents from my former employer in Denver. Somehow, Apex had obtained details of their new expansion strategy, and it was aggressive. They were planning to undercut Apex's pricing in every major market, using what appeared to be insider knowledge of Apex's cost structures. How did they get this information? I asked when I called Isabella back. "We think they have someone on the inside, someone who knows our contracts and pricing." She paused. "Alice, I need to ask you directly. You worked there for 6 years. Did you sign a non-compete?" "No, I was just an analyst. They didn't consider me important enough for a non-compete." "And you've had no contact with anyone there since you left?" "None. I quit without notice and disappeared, remember?" Isabella was quiet for a moment. "The timeline matches up. They started getting aggressive right around when you would have been in Southeast Asia establishing our new supplier relationships." My mind raced. "You think they're copying my strategy? How would they even know what I was doing?" "That's what we need to find out. Can you think of anyone there who might have tracked your movements? Anyone who knew about your new position?" I thought back to my old office, to the people I had worked with for 6 years. Most of them had barely noticed when I left. But there was one person who might have paid attention. "There was someone," I said slowly. "Mark. He was in my department. Always competitive, always looking for an edge. We worked on several projects together. He knew my methods." "Is he still there?" "As far as I know." "Let me check." I logged into LinkedIn for the first time in weeks. Mark's profile showed he was still at my former employer, but he had been promoted. He was now the Director of International Supply Chain Strategy. My job. The promotion I should have gotten. "Isabella," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "He has my old job. Or rather, the job I should have gotten. Send me his information. We need to figure out if he is tracking your work." "Over the next week." Isabella's team investigated. What they found was both flattering and infuriating. Mark had indeed been monitoring my LinkedIn profile, my consulting activities, and even my travel patterns. He had been using my success as a roadmap, following 3 months behind, approaching the same suppliers I had worked with and trying to undercut the relationships I had built. But he wasn't as good at it as I was. He lacked the cultural sensitivity, the patience, the genuine relationship-building skills. Most of the suppliers he approached had rejected his offers or given him minimal access, remaining loyal to the partnerships I had established. Still, his attempts were causing problems. Suppliers were confused about why 2 different American companies were approaching them with similar strategies. Some were starting to distrust both companies, worried about being caught in corporate games. "We need to shut this down," Isabella said during our strategy call. "Alice, I know this is asking a lot, but would you be willing to go back to Denver? Apex wants to open a United States regional office, and we think your presence there would send a strong message. Plus, you could directly counter whatever Mark is doing." I thought about it. Denver. Home. The place I had fled from a year ago. 3 months, she continued. That gives you time to finish your Eastern Europe projects and transition them to someone else. We want you focused on the United States market and directly competing with your old company. They will realize I am specifically targeting them. Good. Let them realize it. You are better at this than anyone they have, and it is time they knew it. After the call, I sat in my Prague apartment, looking out over the city lights. A year ago, I had been invisible, forgotten, left behind. Now, I was being asked to return as a strategic weapon. The irony was almost too perfect. I called my mother. It was time. "Mom, I'm coming back to Denver." The sound she made was somewhere between a gasp and a sob. "Really? Oh, Alice, I'm so glad." "When?" 3 months. "For work. Apex is opening a regional office there, and I will be running it." "You'll be running an office? But I thought you were just consulting." "I was. Now I'm being promoted to regional director. It's a significant position." "I had no idea you were doing so well." "You didn't ask." There was a pause. "You're right. I didn't. I'm sorry for that, sweetheart. Truly. I know." And surprisingly, I did believe her. But I'm not coming back to be the old Alice. That person doesn't exist anymore. I'm coming back on my own terms, with my own life, my own career. If you and Dad and Chloe and Ben want to be part of that life, you will need to accept it. Of course, we will. We just want you back in our lives. We'll see, I said. I'll let you know when I land. The 3 months passed quickly. I wrapped up my Eastern European projects, trained my replacement, and prepared for the move back to Denver. Apex had leased office space in a new building downtown, sleek and modern, nothing like my old office. They had given me a generous budget to hire a small team and the authority to make strategic decisions independently. I wasn't just returning to Denver. I was returning as someone who mattered. The night before my flight, I had one last video call with Isabella. "Alice, I want you to know something," she said. "When I first reached out to you a year ago, I was taking a risk. You had no official consulting experience, just some projects you had cobbled together while traveling. But something told me you were special. You proved me right beyond my wildest expectations. Thank you. That means a lot. This new position. It's not just about competing with your old employer. We're betting on you to build something significant. Apex wants to dominate the pharmaceutical distribution market in the United States within 5 years. You are going to help us do that." "No pressure then," I said with a smile. She laughed. "You thrive under pressure. That's why we hired you. One more thing, though. Your old employer knows you're coming. Word has gotten out. Expect them to react. Let them react. I'm ready. I landed in Denver on a crisp October afternoon, exactly 1 year and 1 month after I had left. The city looked the same, but I felt completely different. I checked into a hotel. Apex was paying for temporary housing until I found an apartment, and spent the evening unpacking and preparing for my first day at the new office. I didn't contact my family yet. That could wait. The Apex regional office was on the 14th floor of a building in the Lodo district. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the mountains. My office had my name on the door, Alice, Regional Director. I stood in the doorway for a moment, taking it in. A year ago, I had been an analyst in a cubicle, easily forgotten. Now, I had an office with my name on it and a team to build. My first hire was critical. I needed someone who understood the local market but wasn't tied to any of the existing players. I spent 2 weeks interviewing candidates, and I found her, Eleanor. Not my old supervisor, a different Eleanor. This Eleanor was a former operations manager at a medical device company. Sharp and ambitious. Exactly what I needed. I'll be honest, she said during her interview. I know who you are. I know you used to work at the company we're competing against. That makes this interesting. Interesting how? I asked. Because everyone in the industry is talking about you. The analyst who disappeared and came back as a consultant who built a reputation in Asia faster than anyone thought possible, and who is now being positioned to take on her former employer. It's a great story. It's not a story, I said. It's my life. Even better, Eleanor said with a grin. I want to be part of it. When do I start? She started the following Monday. Together, we began building the operation. 2 more hires followed, a logistics coordinator and a business analyst. Small team, but effective. Meanwhile, my family was becoming persistent. They knew I was back in Denver. I had posted about my new position on LinkedIn, but I hadn't reached out. Finally, after 2 weeks, I agreed to have dinner with them. Not at home, but at a restaurant. Mom, Dad, Chloe, with her husband, Luke, and Ben. They looked older, more tired. Or maybe I was just seeing them clearly for the first time. The dinner started awkwardly. Everyone trying too hard to be normal, to pretend the last year hadn't happened. Finally, my father cleared his throat. Alice, we owe you an apology. A real one. What we did, leaving you out of Chloe's wedding, it was unforgivable. We got caught up in the excitement and the planning, and we forgot the most important thing. You. We didn't forget her, Mom interjected. We forgot her, Dad said firmly. Let us be honest. Alice has always been the easy child, the one who didn't need attention, who didn't demand the spotlight. And we took advantage of that. We let her slip into the background because it was convenient. Chloe was crying quietly. Ben stared at his plate. I am sorry, Dad continued. You deserved better from us. You deserve better from us. If you will give us a chance, we want to do better. I looked at each of them. My family, the people who had shaped me, forgotten me, and inadvertently pushed me toward becoming someone stronger. I appreciate that, I said carefully. But I need you to understand something. I am not the same person who left. I don't need your approval anymore. I don't need to be included in family events to feel valued. I have built a life that matters to me, with or without you in it. We understand, Mom said quickly. We just want to be in your life, whatever that looks like. Then you need to accept that my life is here in Denver, but also in Prague and Bangkok and wherever my work takes me. You need to accept that I am successful and independent. You need to stop treating me like reliable, boring Alice who exists to make everyone else comfortable. We never thought you were boring, Chloe said, her voice thick with tears. I looked at her, my sister, who I had once idolized. Yes, you did. You all did. But that's okay. It taught me something important. What? Ben asked. That being forgotten can be the greatest gift. It forced me to find out who I was without you. And I like who I found. The dinner ended with tentative plans to stay in touch. I promised to come to Sunday dinners occasionally. They promised to actually remember my birthday next year. Small steps towards something that might eventually resemble a healthy relationship. But I wasn't holding my breath. The real test came 2 weeks later, when Mark reached out. His message on LinkedIn was brief: heard you were back in town. We should grab coffee. Would love to hear about your travels. I stared at the message for a long time. He had been following my work, copying my strategies, trying to benefit from my success, while I had been invisible to him when we worked in the same office. I replied, sure, how about Tuesday at 10 o'clock? He suggested a coffee shop near my old office. I countered with one near my new office. He agreed. It was time to remind everyone exactly who had taught them their best moves. Mark looked exactly as I remembered, confident, polished, the kind of person who had always been noticed while I had faded into the background. He stood when I entered the coffee shop, flashing the charming smile that had probably helped him secure that promotion. Alice, you look great. Europe clearly agreed with you. It did, I said, shaking his hand briefly before sitting down. We ordered coffee, made small talk about Denver's growth, the weather, nothing substantive. He was circling, trying to figure out how to approach what he really wanted to discuss. Finally, he leaned forward. I have to say, I've been following your work. Very impressive what you've done in such a short time. That Vietnam deal, everyone is talking about it. Brilliant. Thank you. You're always good at the detail work. I remember when we worked together on that Thailand project. You had such a methodical approach. I smiled slightly. I remember that project. You presented my analysis to the executives and took credit for it. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. That was just how things worked back then. Team effort, you know. Of course. I sipped my coffee. So, why did you want to meet? Mark relaxed, thinking he had successfully glossed over the past. I wanted to pick your brain about the Asian markets. We're expanding there, and honestly, we could use some insights from someone who has been on the ground. You want me to help my competitor? We don't have to be competitors. There's room for multiple players in this market. Maybe we could even collaborate on some projects. I set down my coffee cup carefully. Mark, you have been following my LinkedIn profile for a year. You have been approaching the same suppliers I cultivated, using the same strategies I developed, trying to replicate my success. And now you want to collaborate. His face went through several expressions before settling on defensive. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. The question is why. You got the promotion I should have had. You are in the position I worked toward for 6 years. Why are you so interested in what I am doing? He was quiet for a moment, and I saw something flicker across his face. Not guilt. Envy. Because you're good at this, he said finally. Better than me, maybe. You always were. You see things other people miss. You build relationships that last. And now you're with Apex. And they are beating us in every market you touch. And whose fault is that? I didn't force you to leave. No, you just made sure I stayed invisible long enough that leaving was the only option. Mark leaned back. What do you want me to say, Alice? That I'm sorry. That I wish things had been different. I don't want you to say anything. I wanted you to know that I know exactly what you have been doing, and it has not worked. The suppliers you approached, they told me about your offers. They laughed about how poorly you understood their business cultures, how you tried to strong-arm deals instead of building partnerships. His jaw tightened. We're doing fine. You are hemorrhaging market share to Apex. In 6 months, we have captured 15% of the pharmaceutical distribution market in Southeast Asia. Your company has dropped by 12% in the same period. Those numbers are public, Mark. Anyone can see them. So, you came back here to gloat? No. I came back here to finish what I started. I stood up. Mark looked up at me, and for the first time in all the years I had known him, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. Enjoy your coffee, I said. And Mark, stop following my LinkedIn profile. It's a little pathetic. I walked out without looking back. That evening, I had a video call with Isabella. She was smiling before I even said anything. I heard about your meeting with Mark. How did you? The industry is smaller than you think, and people talk, especially when someone shuts down the competition's golden boy in public. Well done. I just told him the truth, which is exactly what he needed to hear. Alice, I have news. The executive team has been reviewing the quarterly projections, and your impact on our growth cannot be overstated. We want to expand your role again. Already. You have exceeded every target we set. David wants to make you Vice President of International Operations. You would oversee all of our global supply chain initiatives, not just the United States region. I sat down slowly. Vice President. A title that would have taken me decades to achieve at my old company, if ever. I had been back in Denver for less than 2 months. That is substantial. You have earned it. The board meeting is next week. They want you to present your strategy for the next 2 years. Show them what you showed us in Vietnam and Prague. Convince them that you can scale that success globally. After the call, I sat in my apartment, looking out at the Denver skyline. A year ago, I had left the city feeling worthless, forgotten, invisible. Now I was being offered a vice presidency at a company that actually valued my work. But I wasn't done yet. The board presentation was scheduled for the following Thursday. I spent a week preparing, pulling together data, projections, case studies. Eleanor helped me refine the presentation, pushing back on weak points, strengthening the narrative. You need to show them you're not just good at tactics, she said. You need to prove you think strategically, that you understand the big picture. She was right. I restructured the presentation to tell a story, where Apex was now, where the market was heading, and how my approach could position them to dominate in 5 years. The night before the presentation, my mother called. Sweetheart, I wanted to tell you how proud I am. Chloe mentioned she saw something on LinkedIn about a promotion. Potentially. I have a board presentation tomorrow. That's wonderful. What will you be presenting? I found myself actually explaining it to her, walking through my strategy, my vision. She listened, asking occasional questions that showed she was genuinely trying to understand. Alice, I had no idea you were doing work at this level. This is remarkable. It's what I've been building toward. I know I've said this before, but I really am sorry we didn't see it. We didn't see you. You were always there, always reliable, and we took that for granted. You did. Can I come to Denver next month? Just me, not the whole family. I'd like to take you to dinner and actually talk. Really talk about your life, your work, everything we missed. I considered it. Maybe. Let me get through this presentation first. Of course. Good luck tomorrow, honey. Not that you need it. I have a feeling you're going to impress everyone. The presentation was at 9 a.m. in Apex's Chicago headquarters. I flew in the night before, rehearsed one final time in my hotel room, and arrived at the office at 8:30. David greeted me personally. Nervous? Focused, I said. Good answer. The board is tough, but fair. Show them what you have shown us, and you'll be fine. The boardroom was intimidating. Long table, leather chairs, 7 board members, plus David and Isabella. They looked at me with expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. I was young for a vice president position. I had been with the company less than a year. I understood their doubts. I began with the Vietnam case study, walking them through how I had identified the opportunity, built the relationships, and secured contracts that were now saving Apex millions annually. Then I moved to Prague, to the Eastern European partnerships that were opening new markets. This is impressive work, one board member said. But it is one thing to succeed in specific projects. Can you scale this approach across all international operations? I advanced to my next slide, a global map showing target markets, potential partners I had already identified, and projected growth rates for each region. Yes, I said simply. Here's how. I spent the next 30 minutes detailing my strategy, identifying underserved markets, building local partnerships rather than imposing corporate mandates, respecting cultural differences while maintaining quality standards, creating a network of consultants and regional managers who understood both local contexts and global logistics. The key, I said, is recognizing that international supply chain management is not about controlling everything centrally. It is about building trust in each region and connecting those relationships into a coherent network. My competitors, including my former employer, keep failing because they try to force a one-size-fits-all approach. We will succeed because we adapt. Another board member leaned forward. You keep referring to your former employer. Are you proposing we specifically target them? I am proposing we operate so effectively that they become irrelevant. If that involves directly competing for their market share, then yes. That is aggressive. That is business. David was smiling. Isabella looked satisfied. The board members exchanged glances, and I saw the shift happening. I had won them over. The board chair, an elegant woman in her 60s named Evelyn, spoke. Miss Alice, you left your previous employer a year ago. You spent that year traveling, building skills, establishing relationships. Can you tell us why you chose Apex when you could have gone anywhere? I thought about it. Isabella took a chance on me when I was unproven. She saw potential when others would have seen a resume gap and questionable decisions. Apex gave me room to succeed or fail on my own merits. That is rare. That is valuable. And that is worth building something exceptional for. Evelyn nodded slowly. One more question. What do you want to achieve here? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I want to make Apex the dominant player in international pharmaceutical distribution. I want to build something that lasts, that matters. And in 5 years, I want to look back and know that I turned potential into reality. Thank you. We will deliberate and let you know our decision. I left the boardroom and waited in David's office. Isabella joined me. That was one of the best presentations I have ever seen, she said. You have nothing to worry about. 20 minutes later, David returned, grinning. Congratulations, Madam Vice President. You start immediately. The promotion was announced company-wide that afternoon. My LinkedIn profile updated automatically. Within hours, messages poured in, congratulations from colleagues, connection requests from competitors, and one particularly interesting message from my old company's CEO, Alice. Congratulations on your new role. I wish we had recognized your talents when you were with us. If you were ever interested in discussing opportunities, my door is open. I did not respond. There was nothing to say. They had their chance. Over the next 3 months, I built my team and implemented my strategy. Eleanor transferred to Chicago to serve as my director of operations. We hired regional managers for Asia, Europe, and Latin America. I traveled constantly, visiting suppliers, negotiating contracts, building the network I had envisioned. And slowly, methodically, we dismantled my former employer's competitive advantages. Every supplier they had taken for granted, we courted. Every market they had ignored, we entered. Every relationship they had damaged through arrogance, we repaired. It was not about revenge anymore. It was about doing the work better than anyone else. The results spoke for themselves. Within 6 months of my promotion, Apex had captured 28% of the international pharmaceutical distribution market. My former employer had dropped to 18%. Their stock price declined. Their board fired their CEO, and Mark lost his job. I learned about it through LinkedIn, where his profile quietly changed to "seeking new opportunities." Part of me felt satisfied. A larger part felt nothing at all. He was no longer relevant to my story. My family had slowly worked their way back into my life. Sunday dinners became a regular occurrence, though I maintained clear boundaries. I shared details about my work when I wanted to, deflected when I didn't. They were learning to see me as I actually was, not as they had assumed. Chloe and I had coffee one afternoon, just the two of us. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," she began, "about how I never asked about your life. You were right. I was so focused on my career, my wedding, my life, that I never considered yours. I know. I want to do better. Can you tell me about your work? Really? Tell me. Not just the LinkedIn version." So I did. I told her about Vietnam, about learning to negotiate in different cultures, about the satisfaction of building something from nothing. She listened, really listened, asking questions that showed genuine interest. "You know what's funny," she said when I finished. "I always thought I was the successful sister, the one with the impressive career and perfect life. But you've built something I never could. You took a massive risk, reinvented yourself, and came back stronger. I'm actually jealous." "Don't be," I said. "You have your path. I have mine. They don't have to compete. When did you get so wise?" I smiled. "Somewhere between Bangkok and Barcelona. A year and a half after I had disappeared from my family's life, I stood in Apex's Chicago headquarters looking at the quarterly projections. We had just closed the biggest deal in company history, an exclusive partnership with a manufacturing consortium in India that would supply 30% of the U.S. pharmaceutical market. David called me into his office. "Alice, the board wants to offer you a seat. You would be the youngest board member in Apex's history." I accepted. That evening, I took myself to dinner at a nice restaurant. No family, no colleagues, just me. I ordered wine, a perfect steak, and dessert. I sat there, savoring every bite, thinking about the journey that had brought me here. 2 years ago, I had been invisible, forgotten, left behind. Today, I was a board member of a major pharmaceutical distribution company, overseeing international operations across 4 continents, earning more money than I had ever imagined possible. But more than that, I had become someone I respected. Someone who didn't wait for permission or validation. Someone who built her own path when the old one disappeared. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Saw the news about the board appointment. So proud of you, sweetheart. Sunday dinner to celebrate." I smiled and typed back, "Maybe. I have a flight to Singapore on Monday. Let me check my schedule." Because that was my life now. International flights, board meetings, strategic decisions that affected thousands of people, and a family that had finally learned I was worth remembering. In the months that followed, the consequences for those who had overlooked me became painfully clear. Mark never recovered his career momentum, taking a junior position at a much smaller firm where he remained stuck for years, always wondering what could have been. My former employer continued to hemorrhage market share, eventually being acquired by a competitor at a fraction of their former valuation. The executive team that had passed me over for promotions found themselves explaining to shareholders how they had lost the industry's most valuable strategist. Chloe's perfect life revealed cracks. Her marriage struggled under the weight of her husband Luke's failed business venture, and she often called me for advice, finally seeing me as someone worth consulting. My parents, humbled by how close they had come to losing me entirely, made genuine efforts to understand my life, though they would never fully comprehend the depth of what their neglect had cost me. As I sit in my Chicago office now, watching planes take off toward destinations I'll visit next week, I realize that the greatest revenge wasn't their downfall, but my rise. They forgot me. And in that forgetting, they freed me to become extraordinary. What about you? Have you ever had a moment where you felt completely overlooked, only to realize it was the catalyst for your greatest transformation? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it.